one of the major errors that you find in school books across the country, and especially in these advanced placement textbooks, they're also there, is you'll put a picture of the Dome of the Mosque, the Dome of the Rock Mosque in these textbooks. And here's the problem with this. Right next to it, it says, this is where Muslims believe Muhammad ascended into heaven. Well, that's not even close to accurate. Why is that? Because the truth is that Muhammad was sleeping with one of his wives in Mecca. So this is shortly after taking over Mecca. And while he was sleeping with one of his wives, he dreamed that he got on a flying ass named Barack. Now you know where our president's name came from. He was from a flying ass. And he got on this flying ass and he rode it all the way to Jerusalem. And he got off the flying ass in Jerusalem and saw the temple, which was non-existent at the time. It was gone. The Romans had destroyed it by this time. But in his dream, he saw it. And again, because it's non-existent, I have a lot of questions about where he was. I mean, again, it's a dream. Can you ever know where somebody else is in a dream? And the answer should be no. But some guy claimed about 100 years later that he knew exactly where Muhammad ascended into heaven, and this was it. How is that possible?
Yeah, you know, this is a good point that Paul just spoke on. If in the near future, I'm gonna reference some material out of Sherry Barron's book that I told you all about before. But the point here is, from a historical perspective, there are dozens, if not hundreds, of things about the Quran's history that are historically incorrect and factually just don't even add up.
Yes.
So I want you to all to understand that. You think you know Islam? Not even the Muslims, the majority of them, understand the history. They believe, as Paul said earlier, they believe what they hear. The imams educate them. Most people don't read the language necessarily, and especially in Middle Eastern countries. Now, France may be an exception, but in Middle Eastern countries, people grow up. Women are not allowed to be educated in a lot of cases. And men are only educated, boys, to like maybe the 8th grade equivalent, unless they become an imam.
It becomes really scary. Even just looking here, in North America, I'm just going to pick on North America. Most Muslims do not read the Quran because they are told they have to read it in Arabic. And my way of looking at this is, okay, do you really believe that no one can translate this? So if you take someone and you go to a Muslim country, how do they communicate? Well, you get a translator. Oh, wait, you get a translator? So someone can translate. Yeah, okay. So are you saying that we're too stupid to translate stuff on our own? Or is Google, this is where it gets really interesting, is Google too stupid to translate? Yeah. Oh, no, okay. So you can translate Arabic simply using Google. Okay, yes, you can. So you can translate something from French to English, yes. You can translate something from Swedish to English, yes. You can translate something from German to English, yes. But you don't trust people to... Oh, yeah, this is what it gets down to. There's another thing here that people don't know. Most translations of the Quran to English are corrupt because they were done by Muslims for the purpose of deceiving non-Muslims. And this is extremely important to understand. I only know of one translation that is done accurately by someone whose native language is Arabic. And this is by Usama Dakdak. And you can purchase that at straightwayministry.org. Usama Dakdak is on our network of blogtalkradio.com and with Global Patriot Radio, and he does a show 10 o'clock at night to midnight on Saturdays. If you're interested, I tend to help out in the background with his show, but his work is outstanding. He's literally reaching hundreds of Muslims around the world, and sharing what's true. And I think a lot of times people just sit there and go, why didn't we know that? Well, because the translation is off, is what it comes out to. And you sit there, even the term hijra, which means migration. Most people don't realize that you have to migrate for an act of jihad. Well, of course, you're not going to kill your own people. But,
yeah, exactly. Paul, I want to ask you this question, if you can elaborate on it. And I mean, I already know the answer, of course, to this, but I want you to talk about it. Why is it that you don't have widespread translation of the Quran? What is it about the Quran that you're not supposed to do?
I would say there are widespread translations, but the Muslims are told that they're not accurate.
Right.
So it doesn't matter what language you have. This is something to think about. In a lot of cases, they are pretty correct. The translations were made. There are widespread translations. They do exist, but again, I will agree with Muslims and say, yes, those translations are not accurate. They're purposely done to deceive the non-Muslim.
Even though writing the word of the Quran, changing it or whatever, it's supposed to be perfection. You're not supposed to be allowed to change it or write it.
This is the hilarious truth. Yes, Muslims will claim that that there's a perfect preservation of the Quran, but the amazing truth is that there are several different Arabic translations of the Quran, and I should say versions, not translations. Versions of the Quran. Now, this is right. This has been proven, recent history, and you have great Islamic scholars claiming that it is true. That the claim that there's perfect preservation of the Quran has been fully exposed as a lie from the pit of hell. And, it's hilarious. My suggestion is, if you have any questions on this, go to YouTube and dial into Apologetics 17. Enjoy some videos by David Wood. Now, he's an outstanding person on this. Again, he's reaching Muslims for Christ, and by exposing things like this, there's a good many patriots out there, good many scholars out there doing this work of exposing that particular topic. I don't consider myself an expert in Islam. I consider myself an expert on Islamization. I'm always trying to learn more. The reason I consider myself an expert on Islamization is because that's what I spend all my time learning about. Yeah. I'm trying to be aware of, and that's the big difference.
Well, let me, we kind of digressed, I guess, a little bit probably from your original intent, but let's go back to the beheading it was, right?
Yes.
Yes. Let's, and of course I kind of just gave away the ending there, but I just wanted to bring us back to that because we didn't really close that out. So
the interesting thing about what's happening in France, and the sad, sorry truth is, what's recently happened is there is in France, there is a rapper over there who has just found his way into jail for endorsing the killing of Samuel Paty.
Yep.
And this is what's happening in in their schools. Now, in France, all of the schools are considered public. They are all 100% financed, whether they are what you would consider Catholic or Protestant or Islamic. All schools are 100% paid for. There's no concept of private education over there. Because the government pays for the entire thing. Again, there's no concept of private education over there. This is extremely important to understand. We might not understand that as well. That's what it comes down to. We don't. But again, there is no concept of private education over there. It's extremely important to understand. And this is where they can really say, well, you can't teach this or you must teach this.
Right.
It's
Right.
actually extremely important to understand. The rapper over there who endorsed the killing of Samuel Paty is just the latest guy. There's been students who have making public stands, willing to come up and say, yes, we want to, all people who would make statements against Muhammad must be killed. I mean, there's over 200 people who have been slated. This is like the week that Samuel Paty was killed. Macron came out and said, okay, we're going to deport 200 some odd people because they are extremists. They're Islamists. Okay, this made up word. Okay, so let's say they're Muslims who believe in jihad, so they're 200. Okay, but they're not telling. They don't actually put all of the stuff together. Analysts will.
I hope that wasn't me, but Thumper, you got me still?
Do this. I can
locked up there. You locked up, Paul.
Yeah, Paul locked up. You were fine there. Everything's good now.
Okay, sorry about that.
Yeah.
All right, can you hear me now?
You're good.
You're good.
Okay, so analysts look at they look at a lot of facts. Well, 200 people being deported is nothing when you claim there's over 8,000 people who are on a terror watch list.
Yeah. Exactly.
Over 8,000. You can't watch 8,000 people. You just can't. So my question for France, only France I'm talking about right now, if you have 8,000 people and the vast majority of them are Muslim migrants, they are not officially Frenchmen.
Right.
Kick them out. Just say goodbye. I don't care if you have to airdrop them to their home or wherever they came from. Send them to a Sharia-loving country. They can be happy there.
Just a clarification too. You said there are 8,000 on the watch list.
Yes.
I just want to remind everybody that I showed you a video a while back where they were interviewing people in France, and I forget what the situation was, why they were interviewing them. But basically, the one person they interviewed who was speaking in Arabic,
that's probably on Rare Foundation, what you're talking about.
Yes, that video where he talks about there are like 8 million. We're going to take over France. There's 8 million Muslims in 10 years. There'll be however many, and we need to stand up and take France and then take Europe. Basically, I'm paraphrasing much there.
So here's a drunk guy in Montpellier. He's defending. This happened on December 1st. It was a news story. It was pretty big. Montpellier, a drunk defended terrorism in the middle of. Let me just get this correct. He defends terrorism in the middle of a tram. On Montpellier. This is. Sorry, it was November 20th that this happened. But it became public knowledge and for around the world by December 1st. He said in French, "I'm going to kill you, slaughter you all, you son of a bleep. You will see in 2021 Islam, we're going to kill you all." And this is what a man was saying on a tram. 2021 is around the corner, people. This is a public statement by a Muslim who is willing to. This is. I mean, it should be scary to everybody. We should not be. I look at again. This is France. I would immediately have picked this man up. You would imprison him, but I would more likely say, "Where are you from?" and then give him a quick plane flight home.
Yeah.
It's worth. This is the stuff I can't comprehend. How much do you save by dropping these people off towards a Sharia-loving country? How much do you save? Because are you willing to protect your own? Is what my big concern is, and this is the insanity of what some of this comes down to. I was in France in 2016. I was part of a fact-finding expedition on the Islamization of Europe. I was there as part of the Middle East Forum. A thing that they did, the fact-finding expedition. So we get there, And one of our interviews that we had set up was with the people who were in charge of the Interior Ministry. In particular, it had to do with refugee resettlement type programs. And one of them was their, quote, de-radicalization program. So we asked, one of the questions that was asked, I think it was either me or somebody else who asked this, can you define the term radical Islam for us? Their answer, this is the thing that made me laugh. A violent Muslim. Okay. Violent Muslim. Okay. There's no definition. Beyond that, there's no definition. Okay. So you take somebody who's violent and you put them in this program. Their definition of success is somebody completing the program. So it doesn't mean you make them non-violent. It's just that they stay there for X amount of time and finish. Okay. Now I asked the big question I got to ask the last question. I says, now this is the refugee resettlement guy is last, and he's talking about how all these things you have to do to become a Frenchman if you're, or a Muslim migrant. Again, in Europe, they don't call them refugees. Understand that. When the only time that they are called refugees is when they believe Americans or Canadians are listening. That's it. That's the only time. They call them migrants because they are considered economic migrants. They are not called refugees. And this is extremely important for everyone to understand, because the term refugee implies that you have a fear of being persecuted. Well, none of these people that are coming to Europe have that fear. None of them. They might claim they have a fear. Okay. You're a Sunni Muslim. What are you afraid of? You're afraid of ISIS. Okay. Sunni aren't ISIS Sunnis? Yeah. Do you agree with Sharia? Yeah. Okay. So what do you have fear of? Nothing. So the only people who have a legal right to be afraid, even as a Muslim, would be a journalist, because they were getting killed. Okay. Another person. You ready? Women. Why? Because when the Muslims took over, when ISIS took over, they put up signs that said, bring out your women for sex jihad. Okay. So the women have, again, I would be able, that's the only people, sorry. So think about this. Would any male qualify as an asylee under this understanding? No. Who came to Europe? Almost 97% male, claiming that they should get asylum or become citizens. Now, this is where it gets bad. I asked this guy who was in charge of the program, and after he told us all these things they had to do, I says, what happens if these migrants filling out this application process to become French don't follow through? His answer to me still shocks me to this day. Real short answer. We can't deport. 3 words. We can't deport.
It sounds like a similar problem that we have with all our 11 million approximate migrants, or whatever you want to call them.
There's a difference. The big difference is this. France is part of the EU. I asked a follow-up question. Are you a country or a state? We all of a sudden we had to leave. Everybody's. You could have heard a pin drop after I asked that question, and they said we can't deport. And then my follow-up, they're like, "Oh, it's time for you to go." Oh, because we found out you won't protect your own people. That still amazes me. In the United States, we do deport. We have a process for it. And sometimes it's just simply too long. I'll admit that. I think that we're getting closer to just turning people around at the border sometimes. That's a good thing. Right. But the truth of the matter is that we are not we aren't doing everything we need to in this respect, and that's sad.